my husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life.
I don't think anyone expected to hear what's next, but it was earth-shattering.
That young man, on the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
John Yep, CEO and President of Catholics for Catholics, that moment yesterday, and the applause just went on forever, was one of the most profound things I'd ever seen, particularly for a young woman who lost her husband to an assassination. John, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on today.
It's great to be here, Rob. I was steps away from Erica yesterday when she said those statements, and that the applause that everyone just heard right now, and maybe you saw it online with the other 100 million people that saw the parts of the program yesterday, that applause, I think, resonated all the way around the world, because people saw in that moment that act of just ultimate forgiveness. It was her, it was her Christ-like moment.
Oh my gosh!
Like Christ on the cross forgave his enemies. That's what Erica did yesterday.
I've never witnessed anything like it. I really haven't. John, I mean, we are told to forgive as Christians and as Catholics. I've never seen anyone overcome that sort of anguish and maybe even segueing into rage. In such a short amount of time, she has been given some sort of grace to be able to do such a thing. But when she said that, did it even kind of set you back that you went, wow?
There was literally, Rob, a gasp with everyone standing around me. I mean, we just could not believe it. We could see her trying to verbalize those words, right? We almost sensed it was coming, and then when she got the strength to do it, again, kind of like Jesus Christ, who for him to even speak on the cross, he had to pull up on the nails, which caused severe pain. We saw that moment from her to get those words out. She said it. And then that very moment, because this is what forgiveness does, the moment you forgive somebody, you break the stranglehold that hatred has over your heart. Erica completed the mission of Charlie Kirk yesterday on that stage. He refused to let hatred stop him, and he gave his life for it. And his wife, the person that he was married to, stood on that stage in front of the entire world yesterday with the President of the United States watching from the box, right, and all the other cabinet officials. And she saw the power of just Christendom with our message of forgiveness reign over the entire audience.
I saw in this New York Times piece about interview with Erica. She had implored with her husband to start wearing a bulletproof vest. He said not yet. He felt confidence in his team. But he said basically that he had already kind of surrendered to such a prospect of violence ending his life. And we've heard this before. We heard this with Martin Luther King with his I Have a Dream speech. He says, I may not be there. I may get there with you, but we're going to get there. And John, that just hit me like a hammer, man. He didn't welcome it, man, but he knew it was a possibility, and he wasn't afraid of it.
It's a powerful interview you just started there. I think it was in the Times article, and it talked, like you just said, he was encouraged by his wife the night before he died. The other person in that room on that night was that faith leader, the priest friend of mine that I had the chance to personally introduce Charlie to. The three of them were in that room. Yes, they spoke about a bulletproof vest, but also they prayed over Charlie, okay? Wow. That's why Charlie wanted that priest there with him that night, because he knew he was about to embark on this mission. Erica was worried about his safety. Priest came over, and they had that moment of prayer. Charlie was he was resigned to go the ultimate measure, which honestly, at the end of the day, that's what all of us have to have the same a measure of resolve. Because if you don't have something worth dying for, you have nothing worth living for.
She met the sheriff at the hospital. He offered her the option of seeing the body, she said, but advised against it. The bullet had ravaged his neck. With all due respect, Erica said, I want to see what they did to my husband, which reminded me of Jackie O keeping the bloodstained dress on so everyone could see what they did to her husband. His eyes were semi-open, pardon me.
It's that reference came to mind with Jackie S. wearing the bloodstained dress, and the other image too that came to mind was the Pietà, Michelangelo's sculpture of Mary, the mother of Jesus, holding the body of her son. Right? There's a reason. Like people sometimes say, why do you have a picture of Christ on the cross with all this blood? Why? It's a reminder of what sin and hatred does to people, and Erica wanted to see that because that was the fire that's going to light her and to continue the mission of Turning Point USA. And 90,000 people showed up strong in person to support that message.
You mentioned Michelangelo. She said his eyes were open, and he had this knowing Mona Lisa half smile, like he died happy, like Jesus rescued him. The bullet came, he blinked, and he was in heaven. She had not been able to kiss him goodbye when he left the house that morning, so she did then. This is remarkable. I've never read anything like this in my life.
One of the most iconic pictures or moments in American history, at least in the 21st century thus far, to have everyone there in that room and hear those words. And he did have that, as she said, a half smile, like he knew what was coming, right? Also just a reminder, too, for all of us, like, you know not the day or the hour, right? It's quote scriptures, when your life will be taken from you. We just have to be ready for that moment.
She said in this, I'm going back to this article. I hope you don't mind me quoting it, John, and it's amazing you were there for this. It's remarkable, and that you're as strong as you are, brother. I can only say that there's something within you that is keeping you strong, your beliefs, but also something bigger than that. She said, beyond the grief, she said, sometimes she is able to see the Bible in such technicolor, to be so serene in saying, thy will be done, I surrender to it. Do I like it? No. That was the love of my wife, my soulmate, my best friend, but God's plan is always greater than ours. Like other Christians at Turning Point, she said she sees a divine logic to Mr. Kirk's death, a young prophet whose fleeting life has achieved lasting resonance with after his martyrdom. This is just I can't believe that what it must take to turn this quickly and have this realization so quickly amid all of this grief is divine.
It absolutely is. I mean, here you have what Charlie was known as a patriot, right? He moved the younger generation, right? The entire Gen X generation now is more church-going, more conservative, especially young men. Charlie was that. Yeah. But, what stood above, it was like a faith revival yesterday, Rob.
Oh, brother.
I think one of the cabinet officials said that. It was true. I mean, you just heard this because to understand properly the life of Charlie Kirk, this great warrior for conservatism, right, for ideas, for talking, for dialogue, what stood above all that was his love for the Lord.
Kirk was impactful because of all the things I've said, but look around this place. There's 100-something thousand people here. The President of the United States is here. His entire cabinet is here. Television outlets and media outlets from all over the world are covering this. I just came from overseas, and every country I stopped, they gave us their condolences for his passing. Impactful in just 31 years of life.
Yeah. It's resonating around the world. I was on my Instagram, and listen, I'm building my followings on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Twitter, and all of that. And I just commented on Rubio's speech yesterday. I said, "This is the Secretary of State for the United States. This is a signal to the entire world that we are turning to good away from evil. This is a magnificent and important speech. Charlie Kirk's death was a nuclear explosion. It's getting even bigger at 500." Responses on that comment, not just on another person's site. Something's happening. John Yep, President and CEO of Catholic for Catholics, who was at the ceremony yesterday. I'll tell you what, man, there were some speeches, Marco Rubio's, that were just breathtaking to me. I've never seen this side of Marco Rubio.
That's a great point. We got to share that social media post you did because the Secretary of State spot on with that.
Brother.
The third in command of the United States, right, or whatever the line of succession is. For him to be on a world stage there, obviously, at the funeral service, and then referencing the faith explosion, that is extremely significant. Compare that with 1 year ago, what we could have had we lost this election.
What
Thanks
about
to Charlie Kirk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Pete Hegseth? He's now the Secretary of War, not Defense, but here he is. Don't you feel confident knowing that that our defense is being guided by someone who has faithful principles? Instead of somebody like a communist or a Marxist or a socialist, which the left side with. Isn't that nice to know?
100%. I mean, this guy he comes off so authentic. By the way, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, right? And this is this last week he came back from he led a prayer service again there at the Pentagon. This is so good. It's going back to what we stood for. I mean, this is not. This is the America we knew and loved growing up. I mean, George Washington, commander of all the armies, had days of prayer and fasting at the Continental Army, right? Yeah. So it's great to get back to, as we celebrate the 250 years of our founding, to get back to these principles that have made us successful.
John, let me ask you this about people like Ilhan Omar and Jasmine Crockett yesterday on television, unapologetic about saying that Charlie Kirk was Dr. Frankenstein and his monster shot him in the neck. To me, that is demonic. I don't think there's anyone who could side with that. With a good, only the people who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death online would say anything positive about that. And I got to tell you, I don't even care if you're a hard and fast Democrat. I think most people say that what she said there was absolutely unacceptable, and nobody wants to be a part of that. And I think that's going to hit Democrats right in the face going into the elections statewide, going around the country in November, and in 2026 and in 2028.
Demonic and desperate, because they know they are losing, and when they are losing, as Charlie would do, you push harder. One thing that caught my attention, Rob, while I was sitting there waiting for the thing to start yesterday, was a 20-year-old girl walked by. That 20-year-old, that was Chloe Cole. She's someone who sold the whole transgender lie, and then she's since been set free. And I saw that smile on her face, and it just hit me. That's the kind of girl that Charlie went around to universities, risked his life to set free, and that joy he has brought to our young people of America again. That's awesome.
I saw this data showing Gen Z men trending toward the GOP, sparking a debate among Democrats how to win back those voters. They can't. With their beliefs right now, as I've said about the Democrat Party, you can't fake sincerity. The Democrat Party is down with all of the things that in all of the darkness that they have espoused by just painting it in a different manner or changing the marketing of it. It's not going to work, is it?
Not going to work. I mean, it was a muscular Christianity conservatism that we saw in that room that resonates with those young men, right? They're aware. They got to pay the bills. They pay their taxes. They see what's going on, and Charlie helped them. He gave them he articulated the arguments for them to use, and you're seeing it paid off, right? So, and I think and now that Erica's the new CEO, it also bodes well for the demographic of young women who we've not done so well on in some of these last elections. But that's a very good sign for us going forward in terms of getting them over to the conservative cause.
Well, listen, what should separate us as far as Democrats and Republicans is Democrats agree for a larger federal centralized government, and the Republicans are more about states' rights. Okay, there you go. It used to be that way. Now the Democrat Party, regardless of how you feel, they have just sided with darkness, with evil, with transgenderizing children, which is evil. With abortion until birth, which is evil. Now, I can break bread with liberals. I can break bread with Democrats, but there's no breaking bread with people who have bedded down with evil, because nothing good will come of your life and your soul if you side with that.
It's funny you say that. We were with President Trump a couple weeks back there in D.C., and he said something to the effect of, this whole thing about men and women's sports, I tell all the Republican congressmen, don't bring up that issue yet. It's so bad. Let's wait till right before the election because it's like a 90-1 issue, right?
Yeah.
You're right. It's absurd. what they stand for right now.
Yeah, they're still doing it in the Virginia governor's race. Abigail Spanberger's been pressed on it. She thinks that girls ought to be in boys' locker rooms, boys ought to be in girls' locker rooms, and she's running for the press. And I'll tell you what, there was a giant uprising, conservative uprising in Virginia, and it would have been just another race. It would have been just another neck-and-neck race. I have a funny feeling it's going to go way in the favor of Winsome Sears, and I really think that Charlie Kirk's passing is so awful, but it really has really put the pedal to the metal on his movement toward good. John, yep, we've got to run, bro, but I appreciate you, and thank you so much for finding the time for us. I feel like there's a reason why I know you. Where can people find out more about your organization, Catholic for Catholics?
They go to our social medias, CforC.com. That's our website, or we're on X, Truth, everything. And, yeah, we're just happy to contribute in the fight to take back America.
Hey, John, if you're in town in Washington, D.C., if you're in on a weekend, I would go to Mass with you. I would.
It would be awesome, Rob. I would love to do that.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself. I appreciate you. Let's take a break and come back. This is the Rob Carson Show.